So the first thing to know when using a microscope is how to grab it correctly. And so the way to grab it is just like I'm showing you right here, which basically involves always holding it with two hands, one supporting the base and then one on the back here. And there's actually a handle to help you carry the microscope. So always hold it with two hands when you're carrying it from the cabinet to your work area. And so here's just an overview of the most common things that you're going to be manipulating on your microscope. So there's a whole bunch of knobs and things to manipulate, but we're just going to be manipulating mainly 3 or 4 of them for the course of a quarter. The one thing that you can manipulate are these eyepieces. So it turns out that you can widen them or make them more narrow in order to match the width of your eyes. So take advantage of that so that you're not always just peeking through one of your eyes through the lens. Make sure that the width is matches perfectly with the width of your eyes so that you can see the image with both of your eyes. Another thing that you're going to be manipulating a lot this quarter are these guys right here, the objective lenses. It turns out that we have 4 for the microscopes that we're going to be using. And you may or may not know that one of the objective lenses, you actually need to use a drop of oil in order to look through it correctly and to be able to get it into focus. And so we'll show you more about that later on. Some of the other knobs you're going to be using a lot are these guys down here. And so basically what these knobs do, there's 2 sets of them. There's a top one and then a bottom one. And so basically what these knobs do is that, well, they move the stage. So if you move this top knob right here, check out what happens. Moves the stage forward and back. And if you move this bottom knob down here, check out what happens here. It moves the clips which hold the specimen into place, moves that from side to side. So you're going to be using that a lot this quarter too. And a couple of other things we're going to be using this quarter a lot. This guy right here adjusts the intensity of the light. And then these guys down here, that's what you use to focus on your specimen. And again, there's 2 sets of focus knobs. There's one at the base here, and check out what happens when you turn that. It moves the stage up and down. And then there's also the focus knob here on the tip. It's the fine adjustment knob, and so check out what happens when you turn that. Actually, with the naked eye, you see nothing, because what it's doing is it's moving the stage up and down, but in just really, really, really small amounts. And so it turns out that there's a proper time to use the fine adjustment knob and a proper time to use the coarse adjustment knob. And we'll show you that here in a second. All right, so some of the most common knobs that you're going to be using on the microscope this quarter. All right, so when you're actually ready to look at a specimen, something like this maybe, what you want to do is plug in your microscope and then turn on the light. And it turns out that the light switch is right here. It's this button. And so when you turn on the light, you should see the light coming up from the bottom right here. And you can adjust the intensity of the light by turning this knob left or right. And so when you're ready to look at something again, what you want to do is have the microscope kind of in a starting position. And basically what starting position involves is having the stage as far down as you can get it by using this coarse adjustment knob. Not only that, but having the objective lens, that's the smallest one, clicked into place. And it turns out that on our microscopes, the smallest objective lens we have is this red one, which is a 4x lens. And remember that if the 4x objective lens is clicked into place, what that means is that when you look at the specimen in focus, what you'll see is that the specimen is actually 40 times the size that it actually is. And that's because it turns out that these ocular lenses here magnify things just 10 times by themselves. So if you have the ocular lenses magnifying things 10 times, multiplied by the 4 times that the objective lens is magnifying it, then 10 times 4 will give you a total magnification of the object of 40 times its actual size. So when you're ready to take a look at your specimen, something like this, what you do is you take it and then you securely fasten it onto your microscope stage by placing it in the middle of these silver clips. And once you place it on the silver clip, the next thing to do is to make sure that your specimen is actually over the light source. And so here, let me show you what I'm talking about there. right? So actually when the specimen has been placed onto the microscope stage, what you want to do is make sure that your specimen, which is this guy in the middle of the glass, the circular cover slip, is actually right over the light source. So right now you can see that the thing you want to look at actually is not over the light source that's going to be illuminating it. So what you want to do is, if you want to have any luck at actually looking at your specimen, is to go ahead and turn these knobs here in order to move the specimen actually right over the light source, like that. And so now that it's actually above the light source, you're going to have some luck at actually taking a look at what's on that specimen. So once you have your sample, your specimen centered over the light source, now you can take a look. And basically what taking a look involves is looking through your ocular lenses. Again, make sure to adjust the width of the ocular lenses so that it matches the width of your eye. One thing to be careful of is that if you're actually too close to the ocular lenses, kind of like this, what you might see is either nothing, or you might see your own eyelashes in the way. So this, you can see how far my head is to the ocular lens. That's about the perfect distance, so that you can actually see everything with both eyes without having your eyelashes get into the way. And so when you're looking through the ocular lens and you want to look at your specimen, basically what that involves is slowly bringing the specimen up using the coarse adjustment knob until you finally see something come into focus. And when you see something come into focus, one little trick that I do is that when I see something come into focus is that I turn these knobs down here, which causes the specimen to move side to side. And basically what I'm checking for is, well, if I'm looking at the right thing, then that means that the right thing being the thing that's actually on the specimen, the thing that's actually on the slide. If I'm looking at the thing that's actually on the slide, if I move the slide from side to side, that means that the thing I'm looking at should also move from side to side. So that's always kind of a check that I do to make sure that I'm actually looking at the right thing and maybe not some piece of debris that's actually on the microscope objective lens itself. So if you're focused on something and you do this little trick where you move the thing side to side and what you're focusing on is not moving at all, then that probably is an indication that what you're looking at is not the thing that's on the slide, but maybe some debris that's on the objective lens itself. So once you have something in focus on the lowest objective lens, the next thing to do is you want to see a bigger picture of it. So just slide the next objective lens into place. And notice what I'm going to do here is that after you get something into focus on this 4x objective lens, don't touch these coarse adjustment knobs anymore, because you found the perfect distance here. So once you have this into place, don't move the stage up and down. Simply just slide the next one into place, kind of like that. And if you were in sharp focus on the 4x, if you don't move anything and simply just move that 10x into place, that means that what you're going to be looking at now when you go like this, should pretty much already be in focus. If not, all you have to do is make some small adjustments by turning the fine adjustment knob until you see it come into really sharp focus. And to give you an idea of maybe the working distance you want to be at to get something into focus, here, check this out. All right. So you see about how far the slide is from the objective lens. It's kind of out of focus a little bit. So if you have something into focus using that 10x, that yellow objective lens, that's about how far it's going to be from your specimen. Once you're happy with looking at the 10x in focus, the same idea holds true for the next objective lens. So if you want to see what it looks like under the next biggest objective lens, which is the 40x, again, don't move the stage up and down. Once you have it in sharp focus on the 10x, simply just slide the next guy into place. It might look like it's going to touch your specimen, because this is a bigger lens, so it'll be quite a bit closer to the specimen. So it might look like it'll bump into the specimen, but as long as you are in sharp focus on this guy, you can rest assured that you can click the next guy into place without having it crash into the specimen. So the same thing, once you slide the next guy into place, if you didn't move the adjustment knobs up or down, when you look, it should pretty much be in focus like this guy is right now. If not, what you'll have to do is just make some minor teeny tiny adjustments by moving the fine adjustment knob, kind of like this. And so once you're happy with taking a look at the specimen under the 40x objective lens, what you want to do is, and you might not have done this before in your cell biology class before coming here, but we're actually going to use the 100x objective lens, which is called the oil immersion lens. And the reason why it's called the oil immersion lens is because you actually have to dip it in a drop of oil in order to be able to see through it clearly. So here's what we're talking about with dipping it in a drop of oil. So to use the oil immersion lens, what you do is you click the 40x lens out of the way, and before you slide the 100x oil immersion lens into place, what you do is you grab some oil immersion. It's basically just mineral oil, and this can be found in your drawers. And what you do is you put a drop of oil actually directly on the specimen, right on top of it, before you click the oil immersion into place. And basically what will happen when you click the oil immersion into place is that the objective lens itself should be actually sitting in that drop of oil. And so when it's sitting in that drop of oil and you look down, one thing you might do is increase the amount of light, because less light goes through the big boy lens here. So you're going to have to increase the amount of light to get maybe a better view. And then again, if you did not move the stage up or down, all you'd have to do, if it's not already in focus, is to just make some really, really fine adjustments until you finally see something come into focus. So one thing that commonly happens is that you might be able to get your specimen into focus on maybe the 4x lens, the 10x lens, the 40x lens, but for some reason this 100x lens, the oil immersion lens, just will not come into focus, no matter how much twiddling you do or how good you think you're focusing in. Just for some reason, one of the lenses might not come into focus for you. And so whenever that happens, probably what that means is that the lens that's not coming into focus, it's probably dirty. And so it turns out that there's a proper way to clean a dirty lens so that you can focus on a specimen through it. And the proper way to clean a dirty lens is, well, you need a couple of things. You're going to need some of this stuff, lens paper, and there should be some of this in your drawers. And also you're going to need some of this lens cleaner, and there should be some of this in the front of the room. And so what you do is this. So it should be noted that, again, you want to use lens paper and not any of the other stuff that you might find in the lab. So paper towel is no good. Kim wipes are no good. There's this stuff in your drawer called bibulous paper. That's no good. Again, what you want to use is this lens paper, and basically the reason why is because this stuff is, that the paper is really, really fine, so that you can use it to rub up against the objective lens without any fear of scratching the objective lens. Right, so if you want to clean a lens, again, maybe because it just won't focus no matter what you do, is you grab a piece of lens paper. Just one piece will do. And then you moisten the lens paper with some of the lens cleaner. I fold it over twice, and then you moisten it with some of the lens cleaner. And then you take it and you basically just go to town on the lens that's giving you problems. So you take it and you just kind of rub as hard as you can up against that lens that's giving you problems. Again, because this is really, really fine lens paper, rubbing up against it as hard as you can is not going to damage it. It's not going to scratch it whatsoever. So rub it against the objective lens as hard as you can in order to get as much of that dirt off as possible. And so after I rub it for maybe a few seconds like that, I use maybe a dry piece of the lens paper, a side that doesn't have any lens cleaner on it, and I use that to kind of dry it off. Again, press as hard as you can so you can get as much of the debris off as you can. And so once you've given it the once over, kind of like that, hopefully what was once something that you could not get into focus no matter what you did, hopefully now will come in as sharp focus. And that applies to any one of these lenses. So if any one of these lenses, for some reason, you're not able to focus in on it, it probably means that it's dirty. And in order to clean a dirty lens, just do what we just showed you. So once you're done taking a look at your specimen and you've made all your drawings and made all of your conclusions off of those drawings, it's time to put away your scope. And it turns out that there's a proper way to put away the microscope. And the proper things to do, or the things to do to put it away properly, is to first lower the stage all the way down. Make sure, for sure, to remove the slide from your microscope stage. And if it's a slide that if you're planning on looking at the slide again, what you can do is this. So you've remember that you put some oil immersion, you put mineral oil on this slide in order to be able to focus using the oil immersion lens. If you want to take a look at the slide again, so if you want to save it, the way to save it is, well, first you want to dab off that oil that you just put on there. And so to dab off the oil, here's an okay time to use some of the Chem wipes that you might find in the lab. So just take some Chem wipes and very gently just dab the oil off of the specimen. Because if you go really rough and try to sandpaper it off, not only is that going to remove the oil, but it's also going to remove the specimen. So the idea here is to dab it so that you're getting the oil off of the microscope slide without taking the actual sample off the microscope slide. So I'm going to dab it like that, and once you have as much of the oil off as you can get off, then you can store this in your drawer. So for sure, remove the slide. Once you've removed the slide, what you want to do is clean the oil off the objective lens. So again, what you want to use for the objective lens cleaning is this lens paper. And again, wipe off the objective lenses by using the lens paper and just pressing up against the objective lens as hard as you can in order to get most of or as much of the oil off as possible. And one thing to remember is this. So it turns out that maybe you don't do it on purpose. Accidentally, oil might get on the other lenses as well. So an important thing to remember is not only to clean off the oil immersion lens, but go ahead and clean off all of the other lenses as well, just in case oil got stuck on there. So I give all of the lenses kind of a once-over. Once all of the lenses have been cleaned off of the oil, another thing to do is to, well, if any oil spilled on the stage, to also wipe the oil off of the stage, like this. So now you're almost done putting it away. So basically the last couple of things to do before you put the microscope away is to make sure that the 4x, the lowest objective, is clicked into place. And basically what that does is that it ensures that the stage doesn't accidentally bump up and damage the objective lenses. Because if the biggest lens is clicked into place, you see how much closer it is to the stage. So if this thing gets bumped up or down, that just increases the chances that that objective lens is going to get damaged. So you want to make sure that the lowest objective lens is clicked into place. The stage is as far down as you can get it. You want to lower the light and then turn it off. Basically, by lowering the light, what that does is that it prevents the next person, whoever uses the microscope next, if it's cranked all the way up, and they look at it, when they turn it on, they're going to get blinded, basically. So make sure that's all the way down before you turn it off. Then go ahead and unplug the microscope, and make sure to wrap the plug around the thing here in the back. Make sure to wind it around that, so that it's not loose and that nobody trips over it. And again, when you carry it over to the cabinet, make sure that you use 2 hands. So when you put your microscope away in the cabinet, it turns out that there's a proper way to put it in the cabinet. And the proper way to put it in, so if you take a look at these 3 microscopes right here, the one on the far left and the one on the far right, that shows the proper way to put it in the cabinet. And as you can see, the proper way, basically all that involves is to put it in the cabinet so that the back of the microscope is facing outward. So the microscope there in the middle, that's incorrect. And there's actually a few things that make this incorrect about storing the microscope in this way. So by putting it so that the front is facing out, basically that forces the next person that's going to use it to reach around the back and grab the handle in the back before you can take it out. And that might be kind of awkward. So that's one thing that's bad about it. There's a couple of other things that's bad here. So how about if we go a little bit closer? So if you see how this person put away the microscope, the stage is not all the way down. Right? So that's one bad thing about it. So the stage could be lowered so that it's all the way down. Remember we said that's the proper way to do it. And then another bad thing about this is that, check it out, it's not the lowest objective lens that's been clicked into place. So you want to make sure that not the 40x, not the 100x, not the 10x, but the lowest objective, which in our microscopes is the 4x, that guy's clicked into place. And so now this guy has been put away properly if only you were to reverse it, turn it around. So there's a proper way to put away the microscope and the cabinet.